everyone is doing okay. This wasn't going to be the next episode, but I found this to be fascinating. At the very least, I'm stumbling over and I'm reading it, and I'm like, wow, that's a fascinating point that everyone completely ignores in this story because of how explosive, I guess, Jones and inflammatory Jones is. But I think this fits probably more into a 420. So let's call this a 420. I haven't done a 420 in a while. And I'm going to say blaze one if you got one. And I'm going to give you a moment to do that blazing of one if you got one. This is called Alex Jones in a Curious Case of What's Real. That's where I'm going with it. Let's put it Alex in Wonderland. As you know, Jones is in a court case. And he's in several court cases because people filed lawsuits of defamation of character for the things that he was saying about Sandy Hook. Sandy Hook and some of the other stuff that he was talking about. But while he's in this court proceedings, he's having a conversation with the guy who's examining him. And he tells the guy at one point, he says, look, the government has lied to me. Media has lied to me. I didn't necessarily know what was real. I was having somewhat of a psychosis about it. Now, Alex Jones has a, you can say, a fiduciary incentive to kind of push the envelope based on the way your show is. And so whether it's a psychosis or not, I don't know. But that's a fascinating point that he just made. I don't know what's real. Like, and everybody, for the most part, has that sneaking understanding that, for the most part, they don't know. They try to mask it with science or religion or whatever else, but at the end of the day, 3 a.m. between them and their God, they don't know. And I'm not talking about nuts and bolts. I'm talking about this kind of grand cosmic scale beyond the veiled, looking at it from a certain dimensional space. From a skeptic's point of view, myself, you kind of have to admit, all of the things that it would take for just the cell to get itself together, meaning for that life thing itself to coagulate from atoms to come together in order to make a cell, it's pretty fucking phenomenal. And then you go beyond that from a cell and you get to tissues and then organs, and then you have, let's say, a form of something, some being. And then add on top of that, intellect. That is a magnificent fucking series of events in order to make something like that come place. And this is not me saying God or anything else. I'm just saying that is a magnificent fucking series of events. Even if you're talking about millions of years, that is a magnificent series of events. I'm making the point that I don't know. I don't need to necessarily force this of not knowing. I kind of accept it. And even going with this idea that this is an evolutionary universe, also accept that. But so you end up with, at the end of the day, you don't know. Here's an example. A child, a kid, let's say 7 years old, 8 years old, 10 years old, goes on a camping trip with a family. And while that kid is at a camping trip with a family, let's say they're going to Pennsylvania, let's say they're going to the Poconos, let's be more specific. They're in a trailer, and that kid at 5 in the morning, in the middle of a rainstorm, muddy, slippery, flips out. He flips out because he wakes up from a dream saying, I need to get to a phone. I need to call my mom. What this kid has just experienced was somewhat, it wasn't even a nightmare per se, but it was a nightmare for him because he saw his mom in a certain degree of pain, a certain degree of angst, and is at the point of trying to off herself. He flips out. Now, you can say it's a bad dream, you can say it's anything else, but he is sufficiently animated to where they actually find him a phone booth. He calls his mom and he tells her, look, it's okay. Don't, it'll be okay. You have other responsibilities. Me, don't flip out. It'll be all right. Whatever it is, don't stress. And let's say it snaps her out of something to what was a very dark, black mood that she was in that literally, overwhelmed this person to the point where they had forgot about the fact that, oh, right, I have a kid, I can't go anywhere. Hell, it's part of the difficulties in the first place. Now, is it a coincidence that that kid was flipping out exactly at the same time that the parent was talking about offing herself? Was it just dumb luck? Did the kid suck in something from the, surrounding thing of the parent, and then just kind of all of that coagulated together at the exact same time where that parent was having those black moods, to where that kid could intercede? What was it? Or was there something more? Is there a connection between us that goes beyond just me talking and goes beyond something of this, what we will consider local matrix? Us interacting with human beings in a way that goes beyond us just our typical communications, or the way we would say overt communications. Is there something more? I guess that's the point. Here's another one. A parent has a dream where she's coming out into the backyard, and there's a woman. Let's say a woman's banging on the door. She opens the door, and the woman is kind of, flipping out, saying, "You need to contact your kid. You need to contact your kid." And my mom is, for the most part, her. Meaning she still has all her faculties in the dream space, even though she doesn't know she's in a dream space. And she's saying, "My kid is fine. What are you talking about?" And every time my mom says, "My kid is fine," this woman gets a little bit more animated, to the point where the woman was flipping out, outright losing her shit in this conversation. Because from my mom's point of view, her kid was fine. There wasn't anything in the ether that got across that something was wrong with her kid. From my mom's point of view, the kid was fine. The mom calls the kid and says, and the kid is, I'm talking like 20, 21, and she says, "I had the oddest of dreams." She said, "I had this odd dream where this woman was screaming at me, telling me that there was something wrong with you." Now, the mom didn't know, but the kid, that something was wrong with the kid. The kid was going through black moods or issues or difficulties that the kid didn't necessarily let on, because he didn't necessarily want them to know. When people commit suicide, what? The kid wasn't trying to commit suicide. But I'm just saying, oftentimes that stuff is done on their own. There may be signals, sometimes not. The people who try and fail, what they say are the people who, for the most part, just wanted attention. There was, again, is it luck? Was it coincidence? Was there something that the kid was giving off that the kid didn't necessarily know that the kid was giving off, but the mom picked up on the subconscious level that kind of just so happened exploded in her subconscious? Or was there something more? Was there something more? I have another one. A person gets up at night, goes to the bathroom to whatever people do in the bathroom, use the bathroom, and she comes up from washing her hands and looks into the mirror. She sees the image of a person who had just died. She didn't know that the person had just died, but the person essentially died. She saw the person in the mirror at the exact same time that the person, for the most part, left the space. Now, she vividly remembers this. She was wide awake at the time. There wasn't anything else going on. She didn't even have any indication that the person was on their way, meaning passing. Was it dumb luck? Was it coincidence? Or was there something more? There are thousands of these stories. And there are people who would just say, "Oh, that doesn't exist. That's not real." But that's somewhat of a, that's some assumption that they have some higher understanding of the way the universe is constructed than the person who is experiencing that particular thing. Reality is not that easy to ascertain. And that's that's from the standpoint of just this physical matrix, this, this time frame per se. Even though when you leave that level and you get into the level of politics and reality, it's still not the easiest thing in order to figure out what's taking place. Now, Alex Jones delves into a little bit of both of this because he talks about interdimensional beings and all this other stuff. But he's making a political statement to some degree, even though people are ignoring the political statement because they believe he's doing it in order to get out of these defamation cases. It may be perfectly true that he's using this to get out of defamation cases. Doesn't necessarily mean that he's not hitting upon something. How do you know it's real? When Sane Progressive was on the show one day, I asked her, where's the bottom? Like, where does reality enter the picture? How do you know what's real? The moment that you learn that the CIA was talking about killing a bunch of people in order to give just cause for the president to then say, hey, those people died because of something Fidel Castro did, so now we can invade Cuba. The CIA was going to do this, real or simulated. The fact that real was even entered the picture is utterly disturbing, not to mention what was going to take place in order to kill a lot of people, these humanitarian bombs. The moment that you know that, you have to integrate that into what takes place in your wider reality, right? You can't just forget the fact that the CIA was willing to do that. When you go and look at all the coups that was taking place in Latin America, when you look at some of the grisly things our government did behind the scenes in order to provoke certain situations, when you look at what's taking place right now in Libya, for the most part, the government is still up to its same tricks. This idea of destabilizing governments, getting resources to corporations that they want, while simultaneously kind of almost having this a weird hands-off approach. The problem is we've gotten to the point where it's so overt that we know that it takes place. Media pretends that it doesn't. Media lies to us. If media is lying to us, if politicians lie to us, which they do, by the way, how do you incorporate all of that into your understanding of what is taking place around you? How do you know what's real? There were no weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, even though for, let's say, a year before they went into Iraq and maybe several years after, the consensus was that there were. The chemical weapons strike that took place in Syria, Donald Trump used something that was an obvious lie in order to attack the country, but the media reported it as if it's something that took place. They didn't report the findings of the UN that nothing took place in that sense. Not saying that Bashar al-Assad has never used chemical weapons, but in this particular case, we're talking about after the accords were signed, in which it looked like the opposition was using this in order to frame Assad, to try to create a pretext for Western intervention. If the media is not reporting it that way, then the media is lying to us. I guess I'm trying to make the point that Alex Jones is making a good point, even though he may be making it purely for his own sake. How do you know what's real? What is the thing that's real when the things around you that is supposed to be these that brokers of honesty of some degree have incentives, whether they be political or economic, in order to shape the world in a particular way? Right now, the President of the United States is trying to undermine the government of Venezuela in order to evoke a coup, to put his guy into place, in which case they're going to take the resources of Venezuela and essentially privatize them. The companies have already lined up. John Bolton has said it himself. That's the honest thing of what's taking place. The sanctions that are being used to undermine the government that you might want to call corrupt, but is a sovereign nation. The media doesn't report it that way. If the media is not reporting it that way, then again, the media is lying to us. The media is lying to us. Now, that doesn't mean that you should go and say that people who were killed in what was a tragedy didn't actually get killed. And to do so for pure reasons, just incentivized by the content to which you put out, meaning the audience that he's accrued needs to have a certain amount of red bait, and so he provides the red bait. He's their voice and their expression in somewhat of a larger society. Yes, it's off its rocker, but nevertheless, he's the one that leads it. That's his voice that he's created, and those are the people that accrue to that particular wavelength. It's gross. It's gross. But the argument that he's making here, oddly enough, the one that's completely getting ignored, is fucking fascinating. What is real? What is real? Love the start. Let's see who's here. And 14 minutes. That's not horrible. Come on. Cardi B up in the club. Cardi B twerking in the club. Cardi B with the Gucci bag and the Gucci card, poisoning guys up in the club. Poisoning guys in the club? Oh, that's fucked up. Like, everything up to that point was, do you, boo? And then it gets to the poisoning guys in the club. I'm not on that, man. I'm not down for that. I am not down for that at all. Poisoning guys in the club. All right, let's see who's here. I take a few of these. I have to get ready for the other show, though. One of those guys. No, I think God is an absolute impossibility, or it's just an abstract way to describe reality. If you actually define God as it would have to be defined, I'm that odd atheist who actually believes there is no God, but I digress. Left is best. That's all that matters. It depends on what you mean by God. Like, is it that really easy of a question? We always make... Look, we have certain illusions that we go by with the world. And our understanding of God is, for the most part, only, as large as our understanding can be of ourselves to some degree, right? We all we have to go by is just us. When I think of this, I think of this kind of sometimes as a matrix. And I think that if there was some computer that needed to tend to the matrix itself, that computer would have to be bright enough to understand us, how we're put together, this kind of intellectual frame. Like, we make certain assumptions of the world. We assume that we have a body that have a mind associated with it, as opposed to the other way around, which could be just as valid. Meaning you have a mind that just has a body is created from the image of the mind. When you're having an out-of-body experience, that body that you have, that residual body, for the most part, it's kind of just an image of yourself. It's an imprint. You're kind of making that image almost in a subconscious way, affecting. If you look at yourself too much, you'll just kind of fade away. Your mind is creating the image. Even in a dream space, all of that is you. I mean, after all, if that dream is just something that's taking place purely within your own consciousness, all of that is you. You're creating all of it. You look up at the stars, you're creating that. You're talking to a friend, you're creating that, not to mention the conversation that the friend is having back with you. You're creating all of that. I mean, we make certain assumptions of the world, and that's one of the biggest ones. That's one of the biggest ones, that this is solid. All right, I'm going to end this. Don't want this one to go too long. If you guys enjoyed the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe. You can always support through Patreon. And somebody hit me at the exact same moment that I was about to bail. But thank you. Is this Cardi B again? Who is this? Who is this? Jesse Lee Peterson. Oh, God. Oh, fucking kill me. The Lee is for General Lee's son. Are you the Christian? Can a black be a Christian? Jamal, you need to become a conservative and quit your monkey ways. White man saved us and all we do is monkey around with our bananas. Check out my channel. God, no, I'm not checking out that channel. Jesse Lee Peterson is a black person that hates black people. Sounds like he was hitting the head with a football. It is the oddest thing in the world to watch. And it's funny. I don't necessarily get angered when people say stuff. People say what they say. Like, people sometimes get offended. It's like, oh my God, I'm so offended. Oftentimes, I don't particularly care. Jesse Lee Peterson is an odd duck. I know within African-American circles, black conservatives are not necessarily prized all that well. It feels like you're playing against the interests of your own, in which case it feels, kind of like traitors. I listened to his debate with Sam Cedar. Meaning, I gave him the benefit of the doubt in that debate. But, oh my God, in all of these debates, it's so odd. Are you a Christian? Do you believe in Jesus? And then he started asking Sam Cedar these questions about his Jewishness. Are you a liberal Jew? Are you a conservative Jew? What kind of Jew are you? Like, it was the weirdest thing to watch, the weirdest thing to listen to. Yeah, man. Look, the fact of the matter is, we don certain personalities. At the end of the day, we don't know. And that not knowing, I think, haunts us to some degree. We fill it with work and everything else, but at the end of the day, we still don't know. And people don personas. They call themselves Christians, in which case they take on certain belief systems with Christians. And at the end of the day, the reality of it is a belief system. It's like, is Jesus going to protect you if you got poison? No, he's not. Are you going to pray to Jesus or get a doctor? When you break a leg, I'm going to get to the doctor so I can get morphine. I can thank Jesus after for getting me to the doctor. Just saying. All right, I'm going to end this. If you enjoy the content, I think I've already said that. All right, guys. You all have a good one. And this.